Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, how many people have been charged with crimes of violence in connection with the events on January 6th?
Senator, I'm not sure exactly how many have been charged with crimes of violence. I know that there are many.
Okay. How many have been charged with nonviolent crimes?
I don't have the numbers of people charged, whether at the state or federal level. I know that
Okay. How many people are currently incarcerated concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't know the number of people incarcerated. Again, I know that
how many people? Okay, let me ask you that. Look, with limited time, so I don't want you to filibuster. You either know the answer or you don't. How many people have been placed in solitary confinement concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't have any information about that, Senator.
You know, Mr. Olson, I will say it was sad. Senator Lee just asked you about this. Back in June of 2021, Senator Lee and I and two other senators sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking these questions, asking about the differential prosecutions. Let me ask you, during 2020, Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country, there were over 700 police officers injured by Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots. How many people have been charged with crimes of violence concerning those riots all across the country?
I don't have information on how many. I would say, hundreds of people have been charged, as Ms. Sanborn.
You would say, but you don't know. When we asked you why the Biden Department of Justice has such wildly disparate standards, going after January 6th, targeting some people who committed crimes of violence, and anyone who commits crimes of violence should be prosecuted, but also targeting a lot of nonviolent individuals, we asked you, why is it that you won't target the rioters and terrorists who firebomb cities across this country? The answer we got from the Department of Justice was shameful. On October 22nd, you came back and said, quote, "The department has dedicated investigative and prosecutorial resources commensurate with the significance of these events." By significance, I guess it means the political benefit to the Biden White House. And I will tell you, there are a great many Americans who are understandably deeply concerned about the politicization of the Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. It has been 218 days since we sent you that letter. DOJ refused to answer the letter. Today, when Senator Lee and I asked you about it, your answer to every damn question is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. You're under oath. You may believe at the Department of Justice that you are unaccountable to the American people, but that is not the case. And the wildly disparate standards are unacceptable. Ms. Sandberg, I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered. And there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandburn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, offering cash rewards leading to information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sanborn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Cotton.
Mr. Olson, on July 28, 2020, you signed a public letter attacking the Trump administration for using Department of Homeland Security officers to help protect the federal courthouse in Portland from violent rioters. That letter stated, quote, plainclothes officers in unmarked vehicles should be used only in limited capacities and clearly identified circumstances. Crowd control is not among those circumstances. Mr. Olson, on January 6, 2021, did the Department of Justice or FBI have any plainclothes officers among the crowd at the Capitol?
Senator, I'm not aware of whether or not there were plainclothes officers in among the crowd at the Capitol on January 6th.
Did any plainclothes officers enter the Capitol on January 6th?
I don't know the answer to that, Senator.
Mr. Olson, I got to say your answers to many questions today are disappointing because they boil down to essentially, I don't know. Did you prepare for this hearing? Did you know this hearing was happening before this morning?
The direct answer, yes, I prepared extensively, Senator. Many of the questions are about specific specific facts that I don't have.
Well, I mean, what was
I do think that one of the most important points that I would emphasize is, it's a general matter. It's not appropriate to comment on ongoing investigations.
Well, I didn't ask you about an ongoing investigation, but I just flipped to the cover of my binder here. It says the title of this hearing is the Domestic Terrorism Threat 1 year after January 6th. The Attorney General has repeatedly said this is one of the department's highest priority. You're testifying at a hearing about the domestic terrorism threat 1 year after January 6th, and you can't answer questions about how many people have been charged for events arising out of January 6th. Would you go into a briefing with the Attorney General, your boss, and not be able to answer such basic questions?
On the last question you asked, Senator, over 700 people have been charged in connection with January 6th. About 325 have been charged with serious felonies in connection with attacks on the Capitol.
10 minutes ago, Senator Cruz asked you this series of questions, and you didn't have the answer. You didn't have the answer for how many people have been charged with violent offenses or nonviolent offenses and so on and so forth. Have you been given the answer in the last 10 minutes?
I'm sorry if I misunderstood, Senator, but I believe that Senator Cruz was asking me about other events, not the January 6th event.
Okay, let's turn to another issue that came up earlier today, Ray Epps. During the January 6th riots last year, Mr. Epps was caught on video several times. He seemed to encourage people to enter the Capitol, to break down police barriers. Video from the rallies, or from the rally down the National Mall early that day shows him doing the same thing. Video even from the night before shows him encouraging people to enter the Capitol. Ray Epps lives in Arizona. He didn't exactly go underground after January 6th. He even gave an interview to local media, and he was well known to the Department of Justice. He was on the FBI's Capitol Riot Most Wanted page just days after January 6th. In fact, he was one of the first 16 suspects added to that Most Wanted page on your website. It does not appear that he's been arrested or charged in any offense. In July, without explanation, he was removed from the FBI's Most Wanted page. Mr. Olson, who is Ray Epps, and why was he removed from the FBI's Most Wanted list?
Senator, I don't have any information about that individual. I would defer to Ms. Sanborn for any additional.
So this is, it gets back to what I meant earlier, like asking if you prepared for this hearing. You're the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. You run the National Security Division. The department has said that these January 6 prosecutions are one of their highest priorities. This is a man who was on the Most Wanted page for 6 months. Do you really expect us to believe that you've never heard of the name Ray Epps, or you don't know anything about him?
I simply don't have any information at all, Senator, about that individual.
What other suspects on the Most Wanted page do you know nothing about? Can you name anyone else on the Department of Justice's Most Wanted page from the January 6th riots?
I'm not familiar with the Most Wanted page. No, I'm not familiar with that.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to seek our answers elsewhere, but this has not been a stellar performance today.
There was reference in this hearing from Senator Cruz and Senator Cotton about an individual named Ray Epps. I had never heard the name before. My staff has given me an article from PolitiFact, which I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record. It notes that this individual and the circumstances of his being in Washington on January 6th was raised by something known as Revolver News, a website which is run by a former Trump White House speechwriter named Darren Beattie, who was dismissed from the White House after appearing on a panel with a white nationalist. Fox News host Tucker Carlson amplified his claim in a conspiratorial documentary series that attempted to recast the events of January 6th. I know nothing further beyond that. I'm asking this be entered into the record because it apparently has caught the attention of Senator Cruz and Senator Cotton. At this point, Senator Hulley is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, let me start with you. How many personnel in your National Security Division are working on cases or other issues surrounding the events of January 6th?
Senator, that investigation is being led by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. There they have dozens of individuals, including people who have been, prosecutors who have been detailed from around the country to support that extensive investigation. We have a handful of prosecutors in Main Justice who are working to support and assist in that investigation.
But from your division, my question is how many are none?
No, from my division, I know there are at least 3 or 4 who have been working, if not full-time, part-time on that case.
How many personnel in your division are working on issues pertaining to Attorney General Garland's memorandum of October 4th, 2021 that's entitled Partnership Among Federal, State, Local, Tribal, and Territorial Law Enforcement to Address Threats Against School Administrators, Board Members, Teachers, and Staff?
Senator, and with regard to that memo and that work, the National Security Division plays an informal advisory role. There's no one that's dedicated to that, on any sort of full-time or really even part-time basis. I think we're available to consult with if the facts warrant, that level of consultation with the National Security Division.
And what exactly what have you done to date with regard to, this is the school board memo, just for those who are following along here. What is it that your division has done to date so far with regard to that memorandum and the department's effort here to track parents at school board meetings?
With regard to the school board memo, which again, I understand is an effort to protect school board members, other public servants, teachers from acts of violence or threats of violence. But from the perspective of the National Security Division, I don't think we've had any particular role or done anything in particular with regard to that effort.
So you're not coordinating with local officials?
Again, I'm not aware, Senator, that the National Security Division has played any role in any matter up to this date. Now, I've been in the role for 2.5 months, but I've not heard of anyone in my division having any role to play there yet.
You responded to some questions from Senator Whitehouse just a moment ago about parents at school board meetings. The gist of the questions was it doesn't really matter if it's a school board meeting or elsewhere. If you commit acts of terrorism anywhere, then it's terrorism. Or is it your view that parents speaking out at school board meetings can be or are domestic terrorists?
Absolutely not. And my understanding of the Attorney General's memo on this is that it is not about people speaking out at school boards. It's not about people voicing their opinions, exercising their First Amendment rights. It's about protecting, whether it's teachers or for that matter, law enforcement officers or other public officials from threats of violence, criminal acts, violence. My understanding of Senator Whitehouse's question was really just about the location of various federal crimes, not necessarily domestic terrorism, but just federal crimes is largely being beside the point when it comes to federal law enforcement.
Are Department of Justice officials and prosecutors still drawing up lists of crimes for which parents can be prosecuted regarding their participation in school board meetings?
I'm not aware that that's ever happened. So
Really? You're not aware that it's ever happened? Did you watch the Attorney General's testimony before this committee when he was here last, when we read to him into the record a list of crimes that Department of Justice prosecutors, employees had prepared, had sent to local officials talking about crimes that parents could potentially be charged with, a list which, by the way, was incorrect, listed crimes that don't exist, but that had been sent to local partners in at least one state, all of the local partners in one state. Are you familiar with that, with his testimony in that regard? Did you watch that hearing?
I am generally familiar with the Attorney General's testimony, and again, my understanding of both his testimony and his direction for the Department of Justice is to take the necessary steps that we can take, whether it's enforcing federal law or working with state and local partners to protect individuals who both are serving in public service roles, such as school board members and teachers, and to protect First Amendment rights of people who attend or speak at school board or other public meetings.
Well, here's my issue with that, is that what we have found consistently out of the Department of Justice is we can't get a straight answer as to why your division would be involved at all with regard to school board meetings, why the Attorney General told us you wouldn't be whatsoever. It appears from subsequent reporting that you have been. We were told that parents wouldn't be charged with federal crimes, but we know that Department of Justice prosecutors have drawn up lists of federal crimes and disseminated them to local partners. The Attorney General told us that hadn't happened. We now know from whistleblowers that it has happened, and we can't get a straight answer as to why parents should ever be treated or regarded as domestic terrorists. I've got other questions I'd like to ask you with regard to January 6th. My time has expired, so I'll give those to you for the record, and I'll have some additional questions for you regarding your division's involvement or not with what the Attorney General is doing with regard to school boards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.